compose something, right? What do we do? What do we do? Yeah, so what do we do with that mood? We manipulate it. We are manipulators of emotions because we can actually make you feel something, right? I mean, everyone knows horror movie, put off the sound, you don't get scared, right? That's a very simple thing. Power of that. Imagine the power of that in your own pocket. The minute you're getting pissed off, suddenly something kicks in. This is possibly a reality. Neurofeedback technology. Any guess? You know, anybody to tech here? What do you think this could be?
Basically feedback on the condition of the brain.
Yeah, I mean we have monitoring of listeners' brain waves and how those brain waves affect. So that basically is what is it? It's like a mini trigger, right?
Yeah.
And then you can actually create instantaneous stuff. Now what's happening with AI? That's another whole trip. I don't think it's going to be. Personally, I think it's going to be an aid right now. It's not going to be replacing us. So think about it like that. What else do we have? Bioacoustic engineering. Any idea what this is? Yeah, isn't it? So they've already started this stuff. They've already started this stuff. So you never know where that technology is going to go. So what are we getting? Music industry is not just getting up on stage and doing this thing. It's not just doing your jingle. It's not just that. It's coming everywhere. So if you can be thinking that way, genetic music designers. We got AR, VR sound experience design, ambience sound experience designers. This is actually happening already. This is happening already. Brands are going to be creating in worlds and metaverse worlds and stuff like that where you're going to have to do this, right? Metaverse concert producers, correct? Neural symphony composers. Like, really, this is happening, guys. This will happen in 5 years, 4 years. So the way you think about it, I love this one. Quantum sound engineers. The people are thinking actually of using quantum theory and the funny aspect of two things happening at one time in sound design and sound. Open your minds. This is where we can go with this. And some of this stuff is just here, just here. So you got to look for this. And you know what the whole thing is? The music industry is not only in the music industry. It's everywhere. Sound is everywhere. So if you think you have the ability to create, compose, produce, you can actually implement it everywhere. That's the mindset that we really need to think about, change. Right? Yeah, I think I've spoken a bit much right now. I want you to take over.
No, I was just enjoying what you're actually
You like it?
saying. Yeah, I like it.
Is it working, making sense?
Yeah, it is making
All right.
sense. It's actually setting a context.
Okay, but now let's go to something. This guy is a little more nerdy and he knows a little more, he's more studied than me. So maybe you can talk a little bit about this thing that we have in our skulls.
Well, I was just looking at, I've seen the presentation numerous times, but I was looking at how Ashu is contextualizing what was going on the screen. So it's quite funny and interesting to see that he never said a career as a singer or a music producer, which are the obvious, right? Those are the things that are happening currently, and that's what we actually normally relate to. And a lot of those things that you saw on screen, some of them might not become a possibility, right? Like, it's like, have you heard of DVDs? What happened to DVDs? They thought, okay, that's the next big thing, and in 4 years, they go out with 6 different skills. And they change their thinking, saying that, okay, I wanted to be a singer-songwriter, but now I figure that I can also do sound design because I found it, and I found a calling for it, and I want to do it. I have a lot of students who graduated who wanted to be singer-songwriters now sitting in Japan and doing video game music in sound design. Right? So they saw themselves on screen, on stage with a light, singing for some people. Now they're in a studio and creating content that of people, right? So how do we get there? So there's something called multiple intelligence. Have you heard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory? Yeah. So it says that we are all born with these intelligences, right? And we and our surroundings kind of nurture some of them and curb some of them. I actually have heard the dean of our design school talking to people and saying, have you seen very young kids like crawling? If you give them a pencil or a pen or a crayons, what do? They start scribbling. They scribble on the wall. And what do parents say immediately? No. Right? Have you ever seen a mom saying, brilliant, draw more on the wall? No. That is the point where creativity starts getting curbed for the first time. Because it's the mind that is actually expressing it freely. And the input that you're getting from outside is no. And if that keeps coming on a constant basis, then those intelligences take a backseat. And the intelligences that we nurture actually comes out, right? Now, if you look around, you see that's the general split. You have musical, which means everybody's musical, right? The visual, spatial, interpersonal, intrapersonal, body kinesthetic, linguistic, verbal, and logical, mathematical, right? So that is the skill sets that we have. Now, the point is, musicians are not just supposed to be relying on music alone. Now, once you start creating that mindfulness and awareness, then you actually start seeing which are the skills that you can actually combine. And then if you want to do a particular job, what are the abilities that you need, right? For example, I come from an engineering background. Shantanu is an engineer. We know that to function as a sound engineer in the studio, it is not just musical abilities, right? And it's not just even technical abilities. Sometimes you have to be really good with your interpersonal and linguistic verbal capacities to actually communicate to someone that what is possible and what is not possible, right? So this is an interesting perspective, and I would encourage all of you to start reflecting to see where do you see that balance in you, yeah? So this is like a universe of what you could do as someone who is in the music industry, right? So you can be a performer, you can be a composer, producer, somebody who originates, you can be an engineer. Sound engineer is the most common relatable term, so that's why we put sound engineer. You can be a lot of subcategories over there. And of course, you can be music education, business, or even technology. Have you thought about who makes those crazy synths? What was going on in the mind of the guy who actually made those synths and the samplers and the patches? Right? Who makes those processors? Who makes those plugins? So those are the things that you can start thinking, and your form of expression could be an intersection between any of those things. You can be part sound engineer, you can be
So
part performer.
everyone here, I'm assuming, is interested in music. That's why you're here, right? So this whole thing, you're somewhere in there, aren't you?
That's your universe.
You're somewhere in there. Now, which one are you focusing on? So now the point is, we have to expand our thinking to look at, to really, first of all, you need to know yourself. There's a bit of introspection required. What am I good at? What am I real? Because that's gonna be the core on which you're gonna feed all the other stuff. There's some people really bad at interpersonal stuff, right? And so then if it's gonna be the effort to really make that thing happen, forget that. You know, that's now you are where you are. You've grown up to whatever you grown up. You have to deal with what you have right now, right? And you gotta move on from there. So that's when you can start thinking, oh, why am I struggling to do this thing where everyone else is going okay? Because I'm just like, the battle for me to go there is too hard. So I'm saying, why? Because there are so many other places that you can do this in, you know. So if you look at this, let us look at a performer. This who's got a visual spatial intelligence. Simple thing, right? Let's see what they can do. So if you think about all these things, when you think about yourself in your career, do you think about some of these things? No, right? But these things are required. People are paying people to do this. So if you're going to be a music, app designer, right? A UI designer. There's no reason why you can't consider that as part of the music business, the music industry. I would think that way, because that's what it is.
If I may see, those circles that you see need not be in that proportion in your life.
Yeah.
Right? Your performer could be a smaller circle and you could be a much bigger visual spatial person, right? So then you can actually come into the scene by doing some other things relating to performance.
Yeah. You can just give some examples here. Like a producer. All the people that actually, how many producers here, right? Software comes easy or hard? Let Let me ask you that question. First of all, let me just say something. Don't ever think that if you're studying music production, you're studying software.
Yeah.
Okay? First of all, if anyone telling you that I'm teaching music production, I'm teaching Logic or Ableton, that's bullshit. Because that is something that should come naturally to you. Music production, first, I'm going to tell you a side note, that it really pissed off when people start teaching software for music production. Music production is about actually learning the production of music, the arrangement of music, the concepts, the theories, all that stuff. Softwares, usually, so if you are logical and mathematically inclined, you're agnostic to softwares. You can just figure that stuff out anyway. But if you're really struggling to do that, then think about whether this is the route you want to go or not. Keep that in mind. So,
I mean, what do you think is, since he said producer, what do you think is the biggest quality of a producer?
To be able to interpret the emotions and manipulate them as needed.
I like the word manipulate, right? And one of the toughest jobs of a producer is to decide what not to put in the music. Right? And most of the time, if you read band histories, the fight between the producer and the band is on that aspect. The band wants something and the producer says, no, it's not what we want. Right? So it's more of an aesthetic choice.
so Shantanu, okay, by the way, in the house, we got one of the best veterans, and I grew up listening to him. He's a legend in our business. Shantanu Hudlikar, please give. Thank you, sir. So since I got it, I'm going to ask you a question. What are the intelligences you think are required for the job that you've been doing mainly?
First and foremost is empathy. You know, understanding what's there in the mind of the artist. Because as a sound engineer, I am a medium between the music and the technology. You know, so I have to play a role of almost like a godfather and sometimes sugar daddy, yeah, and a shrink, because I'm only being able to capture the music in the best way possible if the artists are performing to potential. Okay? And for the artist to feel performing at potential, I have to make them feel comfortable, completely at ease in a studio environment. And as it is, everyone knows that the studio environment can be frightening. Pressing that red button to hit record, great musicians have fallen apart and not been able to perform a take when they know the record button is on. I'll give you a simple story. Even Lata Mangeshkar, till she was performing, was nervous before her 10,000th recording. And that's the adrenaline that's needed to be able to perform. So as a sound engineer, my main thing is to feel and to keep the artist absolutely comfortable, and which is why I said empathy. It has nothing to do with my technical skills, but what it has to do is my background of listening to well-recorded, good-sounding music. That needs to be imprinted in your brain, because that then becomes your creative bank and vault for you to keep expressing ideas and then using them and trying to make them your original idea.
Thank you.
See, I told you guys, who was I talking to? Some of the students. Learning psychology is going to help doing music. So like, it's not just learning music. It really is. It's fantastically said, because it is. That is the case.
You know, if you go back to that screen one time, please. See, this is an interesting space because I spent almost 2 years being a domain expert for Pro Tools. Have you heard of the software Pro Tools? Yeah, it was the time India was switching from half digital to almost full digital workstation time, right? And the qualities I had to have to do that job was understanding the systems very deeply, understanding the need of engineers like Shantanu and producers, and then also being able to articulate what these systems could actually do for them, right? So a domain expert's job was it's like a product specialist for that device. Same thing, if you go into the live sound business, you'll actually see there are guys called systems engineers. They don't mix normally, but they are nerds who can actually put up a crazy complex system from a stadium to a small room to make it sound the way it should actually sound. So there are a lot of jobs that you don't really see in the front, like the front man of the band. So the moment you start expanding that circle of multiple intelligences and starting looking around, you'll actually see these things opening up, right? And how you stay related to music. Yeah, full circle, yeah? So, so look, ended up in education, right? So the skills I needed to be a teacher and then now a dean of school is totally different from what I thought I was when I was 19, 20, when I started as a sound engineer. Now, not just be able to articulate empathy, if you want to be a teacher, if you want to be a dean, to be able to actually plan, organize, predict. A lot of these things come when you actually look into that job. So music education itself is a huge industry. Do you know how many schools are there in India? Regular schools, not colleges. Anyone, wild guess. How many schools in India? Come on. They're all Indians.
No, normal schools. Normal schools.
How many schools in India?
How many schools?
Lakhs. How many lakhs?
8 lakhs.
8 lakhs, 1.4 million. About 14 lakhs, right? Maybe now, maybe about 15 lakhs, number of schools coming up. Almost 450,000 schools are private. Now, NEP says that every school must teach music. And imagine if 1.5 million schools have to have 2 qualified music teachers. How many music teachers do you need? Almost 30 lakh music teachers you need. Qualified. Not everybody can teach music, right? Because you play an instrument, you can't teach. So education is a huge industry, right? And if you look at it as a career, it's not the last job that you should be doing. It is, yeah, people think that if you're not good at doing what you are, you become a teacher. No, that's not the fund idea. Right?
In fact, one of the things that I realize when kids are getting out of TSM, one of the first things they're doing is supplementing the income by teaching. Right? That's what you guys do because they've studied the concept, they've understood how to do it. Now they can. So it's really an integral part of all your, potentially integral part of your whole life. So that's nothing to underestimate. We have.
Yeah, this I already covered, right?
Technology,
It's
right?
like you might be in the nerdy side of music, right? Do you know, by the way, India is the fastest growing development market for music tech now? Harman is here in India. The Behringer Group, the guys who bought up all the good gear, they are here in India. So everybody is developing in India, right? So it's not long time before we become a powerhouse in terms of providing music technology.
We did this. All right. We're getting two buddies of ours. I would make an example of these guys because you guys start to think about your path, right? And I think these boys have done a great journey in their path. Because what I remember a long time ago, very long time ago, in fact, so long ago that I got my first keyboard from I think Salim's dad, right? Right. So Salim was a guy who helped me buy a keyboard first. Okay?
We started off by making flight cases.
Flight cases, exactly. Exactly. I've got a scam story about flight cases.
I don't think we have time. Just do it.
No, actually, Salim made me a flight case where I should take keyboards out of the country, the ones I don't want, and buy ones and bring them back.
Oh,
Write it on the passport.
Right on the passport. Exactly. But listen, quickly, let's just go through what they did. I think it's this fantastic thing that you can think about for yourselves. You know, they started off with education. They studied, they learned stuff. They started off simply as arrangers and programmers for hire. I remember hiring Salim to do string programming for jingles for me long time ago, and it was great. He was talented. He knew exactly what he focused on. What he focused on was the actual arranging and programming of synths. You know, he got really deep into it, and that really made me feel like, wow, I want to hire this guy again and again. And then that took him to them to Jingles TV. They became producers. Exactly, great journey. This is straight to. This was then, I don't know how many years, I don't know, then obviously you know what they are now. big Bollywood films, they do shows, and they've got now big record label. This is a great journey, and this is a journey of many people that can happen. But the point is, in the very beginning, when they did the arranging, they were one of like thousands of people that was doing it, but they were still busy and making money doing that. So some people may become just fantastic arrangers for the rest of their life. That's great. That's great. There's Tubby, and then there is Abhi, all these guys. Phenomenal, phenomenal. They're geniuses at doing this, you know. And so they reach their pinnacle in that space, and they actually make a lot more money than some of the guys who've gone all the way on top. So keep that in mind, this journey. Maybe you want to go into this.
I think we'll go through this very quickly. So this relates to, okay, you can just go to the screen. So I know it's a bit small, but then if you start looking at it, you can actually see a long list of things that you could potentially do in the music industry. All you have to do is do a Google search or now ask ChatGPT. It'll actually tell you what are the blocks that you can actually focus on, right? And once you identify those, you will start relating, and this is not me, that's probably me. And you will start looking at that. And once you kind of look at, I could be that, this, and then go into some sort of a convergence, then you'll actually see some sort of synergy coming along. For example, if you were actually doing something like being a score composer, you could have been an arranger before, that's where you actually started. You could be a programmer, could be a session guy who was actually doing a lot of playing before, could be in a band, could be an engineer. So if you look at these people on the screen, you'll actually see they all did that kind of work in the beginning, right? When Rahman started doing work for his dad in Chennai, and he was playing in a band called Nemesis Avenue, and then he did a jingle, and then he started doing films. It just came about doing that. So you'll see the people who actually go up that ladder are the ones who actually realize their potential. They're very mindful as to who they are and what are their abilities, and then start using that to their advantage to move on. So the advice here is don't limit yourself to saying that I'm just going to be a guitarist or I'm just going to be a singer. You start looking around and see how you can actually link them together and move on. Let's go to the next one, actually. It's the same example, right? As an artist, if you look at it, they all started as different things. For example, Loeb, he started as a radio station executive, right? Wasn't the scene, and then became an artist. So, again, the circles: performance, production, interpersonal, business, linguistics. So how many of you studied Venn diagrams in math? You learned Venn diagrams? I used to love it because that was one math concept I got very quickly, right? From this, this is the intersection, that's where I am, right? So, once you start doing this, you probably will start making more sense to you and start aligning yourself to see where you want. Let's run through the next two also. It is the same kind of example that we have. If you're in a label, yeah? If you're in a label, if you're in the label business, what is your biggest quality? You start spotting talent and you start spotting demand, right? And once you make that connection, then you're a good label. Because you know what people want, you know who is good at it, and you sometimes find a person and say, you're a great singer, but don't sing what you're singing. I'm going to tell you what you should sing, because that's what's going to go out in the market. Right? Yeah. Live music. That's a totally different game as well. Right? And of course, there is a relationship between what you produce and you play live, because if you really study the music industry, you actually see the live music scene is generating more money than your recorded music scene. Right? So, but you have to create original content to play for people. You can't be a cover band all the time. You can't be a cover musician. So that's another thing that you can look at. But that doesn't mean that all of us can be great live performers. Right? You could be good at doing something else. Again, multiple intersections. Right? So the point that we're trying to make is each of these careers, if you want to go through the thresholds, right? What I mean by threshold is your performance universe ends in the local pub, or your performance universe ends in the town, or your performance universe ends in the country, or your performance universe is the university. right? So how do you go from this threshold to threshold to threshold is when you start realizing more and more about those intersections and figuring out where, and sometimes you have to pivot, right? You started as a performer, then you became the best band manager anybody could hope for. Works, right?
Okay, good. You guys okay so far? We've got just another 5-7 minutes left. But what I want to touch upon right now is this, what I like to call people musicpreneurs. You guys are entrepreneurs or musicians. So what would a month look like in a musicpreneur's life, right? So I would urge you after this to go home and make a calendar, okay? And every day put down what you think you should be doing and how much you should be earning from that particular thing. Now you can look at it like this, right? If you put a range of stuff, programming, session play, gig with an indie band, composing and producing for something. So usually what happens when someone goes out is that that's a natural way a career forms, right? I do 2 gigs, I do 5 jingles, I do this, all that stuff. You map this out into a monthly chart for yourself and then look at how much time you're putting into each bit, okay? And look at how much you can earn. So it's very, very clear and easy. And then you can actually focus, in a focused way, go attack those jobs. And these jobs can be defined by your study of yourself, your own intelligences, be true and honest with yourself. Make sure you don't bullshit yourself saying that, oh, I can do this and I can't do this. Where you are is what you are, that's fine. But there's way more probabilities and possibilities of getting work if you combine these things, your multiple intelligences and your core competencies. You understood this, right? This is the way you guys gotta look at it. Simple. So, any performers and producers here?
Perform.
Yeah? Okay, so can I get are you working right now? Who's working right now? Okay, can you tell me your month? Like how do you spend your day? How many gigs do you do generally? What do you do? 5 to 8 gigs a month, performing where? Restaurants privately. So you got a amount you can earn at a restaurant, right? And you got an amount you can earn at a private gig, right? Much higher. So you can you calculate that? You have a monthly quota of how much you want to earn on these things? No, but you can think, no, that's because, yeah, but why? Because if you start focusing on it and you start targeting, think yourself as a business, right? You're an entrepreneur, you're thing. Also, so you can imagine now, if you put your, so good, so build that. What I'm saying, build your portfolio, build that, that's great. So she's on that journey. All you need to do is focus on that and figure out which ones are really going to work, which ones are not going to work, focus on that.
Can I say something here?
Yes.
Maybe a little controversial. When you are in this business, you are actually in the business of converting your art into commerce, right? So in the school, we call it contemporary music school, but I like to call it as commercial contemporary music, right? Which is music that is consumed by the masses. Now, a lot of people advise saying that you have to be true to your art. No, but you also have to be realistic to see how much should I stay true to my art and how much should I actually flex. So in my advisory book, there is nothing called a musical snob, right? Don't diss any form of music. What is the largest listened category of music in India? Who said hip hop? what is the
Wishful thinking.
okay? What is the largest category of music listened in India? Bollywood. Okay, 75% or more of music, right? And then becomes English Western music that is topped by the Taylor Swifts and the rest of the people. And then you have a bottom spot where you have the rest of the indie. I'm not saying that markets are bad, but if you have the ability and the talent, why would you not monetize it, right? Because you start looking at it as my commercial side and my artistic side.
I think this is one of the biggest lessons of my life. I was a snob, and I had a punk rock band, and I never thought that I wanted to do anything else but my music. And then I started doing advertising, and then when I started doing advertising first, I thought, man, I'm prostituting myself. What am I doing? I'm making music for soaps and shit. What the hell is this? But the biggest education I had was the fact that advertising opened up my whole brain to listen to other stuff, because a client once asked me to do a bhajan, and I'd never done a bhajan in my life. So quickly I had to go and listen to my mom's bhajan tapes, come down, compose a bhajan. But that process just opened up my mind into this whole new world. And so if I didn't allow myself to do that, and Bollywood, so I'd say like, okay man, if you're Bollywood snob, get in there and make it better. You know, what's wrong with you? You know, you can really do that. I mean, here's a rocker you're a hardcore rocker who spent 17 years at Yashraj doing Bollywood stuff. And you can't think of a more opposite person going into that industry. Yeah. But that is the mindset. I think let's just let go of that. There's anything and everything. And so when I did that first far deodorant job, I did a 10-second commercial, got 10,000 rupees, and my jingle was do re mi fa fa fa. Okay, that's it. And I'm like, wow, I got 10 grand at that time to do this thing. But the process of doing it was the thing. And I really enjoyed that. And then I got addicted. And we were doing, 10, 11 commercials a week. We were addicted to it, you know. It was super.
That's because he experienced it, right? At the university, we have an experiential focus on learning. Until you experience it, you don't know whether you like it or not, right? So that list, oh sorry, it's gone, but that list is something that I would very, very strongly advise that you try. Who knows? You might like some, you might not like some, but once you experience it, you know that this is something that you want to continue doing or not. Or whether you'll be, classic example, standing here, never wanted to be a teacher. Once I started teaching, I didn't want to get out of it. So that list is something probably everybody should try and then see which are the distilled set that you're going to go with you in your life, right?
Okay, we'll just wrap this up right now. So just a little overview of this. What you guys can do is take this QR code. If you can just screen grab it and take it, what it'll give you a big list of stuff. And what it's going to give you a list of is just an example of it, right? You'll have your core form of expression, what your intelligence. Oh, I'll come back to it. I'll just tell you what you're going to see. So you're going to get an idea of this, the kind of jobs that you can do based on your intelligences and based on your core form, right? So we've done all the homework with the help of ChatGPT to try and put everything together. Yeah. So you guys don't have to do that work. So you can just go and the code comes one more time somewhere. Sheena, did I do it? Oh.
While he's fixing that, I want to ask a question, right?
You can take it from those TVs there also.
Sorry. Have you heard of a job called Music Asset Specialist? Anyone? Music Asset Specialist? I mean, I didn't know about it before. Yeah, but you know it now? Yeah, so I saw it on my LinkedIn, and one person's current job designation was Music Asset Specialist. And I asked, like, what are you doing? And he said, any guesses? He said he's working for an AI company, creating music assets to train the machine. Because you can't use copyrighted music to train the machine, right? And without training the machine is not going to write anything. So people are hiring people with compositional and programming skills to create assets, maybe grooves, melodies, progressions, right? Which is completely your own creation. You're actually commissioned and creating it for somebody and putting it, and you're training the machine, right? So in one side, you're saying AI is going to take everybody's job. On the other side, a smart fellow is becoming, I'm going to teach AI how to create the music. And the AI cannot catch up beyond you because it's learning what you're actually putting inside, right? At least for now, right? So that's the new job. I don't think it's in any of the lists, but hey, you can be a music asset specialist at some point. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I hope this was helpful. Until we get kicked out, we can take a few questions.
Take few questions if anybody has questions.
If anyone has any, or we're hanging around for you guys to chat with.
So, like, how can we explore about all these jobs where you say, like, we can create plugins and all?
Yeah.
So, because I work as a software engineer at Microsoft, and I would like to go into the technical field if possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never heard of these jobs inside India. Obviously, they're outside
Yeah.
the country. Obviously, options are available. But how can
Okay,
someone
okay,
try
okay.
that out?
So one more thing in our industry, and I keep telling all of our students, we are an industry of entrepreneurs, okay, where we have to go and seek out opportunity before it comes to us. So what you need to do is join the dots. Remember these three words, join the dots between all the different possibilities and be the first person to create that circle or that thing. That is what happens everywhere else. There's no reason. All the elements are here. What we are trying to do is show you that if you join this, you can go down over there. So honestly, I can't just tell you, here's a number and find a guy. But if you're interested in that, and if your intelligence drives you towards that space, you're the best person to discover how that should happen. And then you'll be the first person to discover. You'll be the only guy, and, and you'll have the first mover advantage in that situation.
Do you have a LinkedIn account? Yeah. Actually, stuff happens there, right? So trust me, a lot of things happen on LinkedIn if you do the right connections. So start following companies. Start with Avid,
So let's take a picture with
Waves,
before everyone goes.
Music Tribe, Harman. And then you start seeing people, real individuals who work for those companies. Then you connect with them. And then you just sometimes drop a message, and then that's how it starts. Oh, is it selfie? Okay.